Deep within the vast world of Red Dead Redemption 2 lies hours upon hours of cut content. Today we dive into the code to find the missions Rockstar left behind. This is the cut missions of Red Dead Redemption 2.
I have missed you, boys. I've heard about bounty.
There's been a price on my head for 13 years. It'll take a month to find us down here, and it seems like we can have a little sport.
Well, they're good bounties.
Where you hear this?
Some fellas I met at a camp near the state line said there was talk of it in bars in the north and west for 500 miles. There was talk of super agents, some said.
Super agents. I'd love to meet one. It's just talk.
I'm sure it is, but I couldn't not tell you.
In the beginning of Chapter 3, Trelawney warns us of bounty hunters and super agents. Mysteriously though, these antagonists never show up in the story. It's possible he's talking about the Pinkertons, but shouldn't Trelawney already know about them? It's a strange line that never comes to fruition. But an early version of Red Dead 2 could have featured these bounty hunters in a mission. And most of what we know about this mission comes from interviews of the actors.
Ben, Roger, special Dutch Arthur mission.
Oh, there was one that got cut that was kind of fun. Some Boston bounty hunters on a train.
We spent a lot of time on that. That was gonna be... Oh, I hate that got cut.
Even the co-founder of Rockstar, Dan Houser, had something to say about the mission.
We removed the mission on the train where you had to deal with bounty hunters, because it was fun at first, but then it wasn't. This part of the process is always about compromise and horse trading. Everyone always loses bits of the game they love.
So what exactly was supposed to happen in this mission? Diving into the files, we can find the mission was titled TRE2, or Trelawney 2, which would make sense because the mission prior he had informed us about the bounty hunters. We also know from the interview that Dutch was supposed to play a supporting role, along with a cut character named Niall Whelan who was supposed to be thrown out a window at some point in the mission. Thanks to the GTF forums, we have lines of code that tell us about how the mission would flow. There's words in the code like ride to train, catch train, ambush, interrogation, distract bounty hunter, advance up train, stealth kill enemies, stop train, conductor killed, enemy ambush, shoot out lawmen, escape train, ride away. It paints a pretty clear picture of how the mission was supposed to play out, but for the sake of speculation, I want to break down exactly how the mission could have gone. The mission would start at camp, Clemens Point. Trelawney has news to share with Arthur and Dutch on the bounty hunters. He tells us to look for a bounty hunter in the town of Rhodes. When we do, we would interrogate him and he would tell us the location of the other bounty hunters from Boston. They're located on a train and it's our job to stop them. When on the train, we would have to stealthily kill the bounty hunters. We would even have to use a pillow to suffocate one of the men, presumably in the sleeping quarters section of the train. We would continue silently killing until eventually one of the men alerts the entire train of our presence. This is when a fight breaks out and we would have to defend ourselves against the whole train of bounty hunters. The fight continues through every train car. At one point we would reach the bar section of the train. This is when we'd throw the cut character Niall Whelan out of a window. Dutch and Arthur would continue killing to advance up the train until reaching the engineer. They kill him, stop the train, have a brief shootout with lawmen, and the mission is over. Again, this is a rough theory on how the mission would progress, but it sounds like a fun mission, so it's a mystery to me why they felt the mission was quote-unquote tedious. There's a rare encounter in Chapter 4 in which Charles tells us he's leaving camp for a bit.
Listen, I'll be taking off for a few days.
Sure. What you up to?
Eagle flies. Chief's son?
Yeah, I remember.
He needs my help.
He explains that Eagle Flies needs help with rescuing young natives from being sent away to reform school. Arthur offers to help, but Charles declines.
Okay. Anything I can help with?
No. I feel this is something that means more to me than you.
It's strange that we don't get to go with Charles on the side plot. It's almost like the game is telling us this mission fell victim to cut content. And if you assume that, you'd be absolutely right. In the files, we're able to see the mission was titled NTV-0, or Native Zero, and we can also find a cutscene with the same dialogue from the camp interaction, though some audio is completely missing.
I'll be taking off for a few days.
Sure.
What you up to?
Eagle flies. Chief's son.
Yeah, I remember.
He came by.
He needs my help.
Well, hang on. Anything I can help with?
Probably, but
I feel this is something that means more to me than you.
Well, you've saved my hide often enough, brother.
Some boys you know have been taken. I mean, sent to reform school or someplace far away. I said I'd see if there was some way I could help free them.
And it means something to you to help him.
yes.
Well, then it means something to me to help you.
Thank you.
So what's the plan? Where you want to meet up?
I don't know yet. Maybe it is impossible. I said I'd meet him and go investigate. There's a grove to the west of the river, by Emerald Ranch, near the bridge. Meet me there in a couple of days.
Sure. And good luck.
We know the mission would take place somewhere close to Emerald Ranch. Arthur, Charles, and Eagle Flies have to attack a military convoy containing kidnapped natives. Or there could have been an undercover option where Arthur and Charles would have to pretend to be soldiers to infiltrate the convoy. The only evidence of this comes from this line from the mission A Rage Unleashed.
Hello. Dutch. This is Eagle Flies. His father is a great chief. Charles and I, we
pretended to be mercenaries. Did me a great favor.
The only other thing we know about the mission is that a soldier would have tried to kill one of the natives, and he would have defended himself by saying he was just following orders. After this, we can conclude that Arthur and Charles would bring the natives back to Wapiti, but that's all we know about this cut mission. Continuing in Chapter 4, there was also a cut mission involving Arthur, Micah, Hosea, and Abigail testing the response time of the Saint Denis lawmen. We do this in preparation for the Saint Denis bank heist, and it would have involved placing dynamite underneath a Cornwall freight, then having to escape a shootout. Unlike the other missions featured in this video, there's still a lot of animations, voice recordings, and context in the game files that we can actually piece together the mission. The mission would start with Arthur meeting up with Micah, Hosea, and Abigail. They plan to blow up a Cornwall freight to test the response time of the law. So once Hosea drops us off, we join Micah in placing dynamite underneath the building. Once igniting the fuse, Arthur and Micah escape through the tunnel.
Move it, Arthur!
And this is when we get into a shootout with lawmen. The fight continues until we have to escape by crashing a train car into the door of the warehouse. After this, we leave by jumping off a train and we have one last conversation with Micah before the mission is officially over.
Had fun with you, cowpoke. You're dumb, but you can fight a little.
Lastly, there still exists a model of the destroyed Cornwall freight, along with the mission image of Arthur placing dynamite. But the reason Rockstar cut this mission is unknown, and it will most likely stay that way.
This is Jim Boy Calloway.
In the side quest, The Noblest of Men and a Woman, we have to find the legendary outlaws around the map to document their stories about Jim Boy Calloway. We have to talk about 4 outlaws: Black Belle, Flaco Hernandez, Emmett Granger, and Billy Midnight. But there was another character that was supposed to appear in this side quest: Frank Heck. He's well known in the Red Dead community for being a cut character. His mission would have seen Arthur going to the Tumbleweed Saloon to look for him. Arthur finds him in the upstairs part of the saloon playing poker with 4 others. Arthur then asks Frank Heck if he could pose for a photo. After this, they continue playing poker until Arthur accidentally insults the gunslinger. This then would lead to him flipping over the table and drawing his irons. It was possible to disarm him, but he still would have tried to kill the player with his other revolver, meaning Frank Heck would meet his demise after his encounter with Arthur Morgan. In the game files, we can find lines from NPCs gossiping about what happened to Frank Heck.
Can you believe Frank Heck gunned down in this very building?
Now, the reason why the mission was cut is pretty simple. In the beta version of Red Dead 2, Arthur was supposed to have access to New Austin, but Rockstar's crunch to finish this game meant they had to cut all of Arthur's interactions in New Austin. This also meant that the Frank Heck side mission would be cut since it was in Tumbleweed. Lastly, there seems to have been an attempt to keep the mission within the game, since on his photo with his information, it says that he could be found in Saint Denis, which contradicts the mission taking place in Tumbleweed. My simple explanation is that Rockstar tried to relocate the mission to Saint Denis, but probably ran out of time, so the mission was ultimately cut.
Many people consider Chapter 1 to be one of the darkest chapters in the game. The gang is on the run, members are missing or dead, and faith of survival is at an all-time low. Besides chapter 5 or 6, I would say chapter 1 is the lowest point for the Van der Linde gang. But unbeknownst to us, things were supposed to be much worse. In many interviews over the years, Arthur Morgan actor Roger Clark has stated that the original plan was to feature 2 unseen characters in the first chapter of the game. Those being Arthur's love interest Eliza and his son Isaac. If those names seem familiar, that's because Arthur mentions them in chapter 6.
You know, I had a son once.
Oh, what was his name?
Isaac. His mother, Eliza, was a waitress I met. Every few months I'd stop by there for a few days. I got there one day and saw 2 crosses outside. I knew right away.
In the story, they both die off screen to an unknown criminal. But in the original version, Isaac was supposed to die in the opening cutscene of the game. This would create a much darker beginning, with Arthur having to deal with not only the gang on the verge of disbanding, but also the death of his newborn son. Rockstar rightfully thought this opening would be too dark and depressing, since chapters 2 to 4 are much lighter in tone. So Arthur's son was cut, and without their son, Eliza didn't have a role in the story anymore, so she was also removed. But there's still voice lines in the game files that paint the picture for what this storyline would look like. The first mission would have taken place sometime during chapter 1. We can assume Eliza is still grieving over the death of their son Isaac, and this leads her to run away from camp. The mission would start by Abigail asking Arthur if he's seen Eliza.
Arthur!
Abigail? What's wrong?
Have you seen Eliza?
This is when we're sent out to find her, and when we do, she's in the freezing cold at a small campsite.
Hey, Eliza.
Go away!
What you doing out here? Trying to get yourself killed?
What concern is it of yours?
Well, there are easier ways.
We can assume Arthur takes her back to camp after this exchange. There were most likely more missions within this plotline, but there's only one other voice recording relating to cutscenes. And it would have taken place in the epilogue with John meeting her in Saint Denis, much like the other encounters with past gang members.
Well, if it isn't John Marston.
Do I know you?
Eliza, I was...
But that's all we know about Arthur's cut love interest, Eliza. Now I've covered the most interesting cut mission so far in this video, but in an effort to be thorough, I want to quickly go over every other cut mission that wasn't deserving of its own segment. There was a cut mission involving Mary Linton hiding out in the Rhodes Saloon because she owed money to 2 men. Arthur would have helped her by most likely beating up the 2 men. Not much else is known. A cut character named Abe McLean was supposed to have his own side mission where the player helped him steal some cattle. While helping him, he would be ordering a bride from a catalog who would show up as an obese man in a dress. There was a cut epilogue mission involving John teaching Jack horse riding techniques. All that exists for the mission is the opening cutscene of John giving Jack a book. Now there are 3 more cut missions that took place on the island of Guarma, but I've already covered these missions in detail in my full Guarma cut content video. So if you're interested in seeing what these missions had to offer, go to 852 in that video. But that concludes today's video. I want to give a huge thanks to Duke for covering the Frank Heck segment, as well as Liam, aka Half of Zonkers, for allowing me to do this video, and sharing his theories about the missions. I also want to give a thanks to the people on the GTA forums for helping me with research on this topic. With that being said, thank you all for watching.